The Lord be with you. This is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Now, every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up as usual for the festival. When the festival was ended and they started to return, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. Assuming that he was in the group of travelers, they went a day's journey. Then they started to look for him among their relatives and friends, and when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great anxiety." He said to them, "Why were you searching for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" But they did not understand what he said to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. His mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in years and in divine and human favor. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. How did you become who you were intended to be? How'd that happen? How did it happen that as you sit here this morning, how did it happen that you are the person that you are? How did you become, how did you grow into the person that you felt you were called to be, that you needed to be? For 3 years, I had a wonderful opportunity to do campus ministry at Smith College, Northampton, Massachusetts. It's a pretty elite, used to be, still pretty much is, an all-women's college. And as part of the campus ministry, we did Sunday morning worship, which only 5 students ever came to. But on Tuesday afternoons, when lunch was served by members of St. John's Episcopal Church, it was a crowd of students. And we would celebrate a simple Eucharist together, all denominations, but especially there were Episcopalians and Lutherans. Everyone was welcome. And we held it in the parlor. Now, I learned pretty quick, Episcopalians don't call it a parlor. It's an undercroft. Every Episcopalian is undercroft. Almost felt like using a British accent when I did this. So we met in the undercroft, and then we would have lunch. On my first Tuesday that we gathered, I met some of the students, young women. And I'll call this one young woman, I'll call her Carrie. I won't use her real name, and you'll see why. But I met Carrie, who had just begun her second year of studies. And she was very shy and didn't talk much. And so I wanted to get to know all of them and spend time with them. And I asked Carrie if she would be on a student committee that I was forming at Smith. And the student committee would function pretty much like a council does in a congregation. And she said, I have to think about it. And then she came to me and said, I would like to talk. And we talked for about an hour, and then Carrie said, yes, I'll be a member of the student committee. And I saw her begin to grow and come out of herself. In a way, you know, when you get to help or support someone in finding who they were intended to be, this is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful gift. And I watched Carrie become who she was intended to be. And one of the first things that she began to wrestle with was her sexual identity. And for cultural reasons, this was not very acceptable in her family of origin. And this is what happens to us, does it not? Sometimes we've had to say as adults, as young adults, to our parents, I'm not going to parent the way you did. And there can be holy hell to pay. Because parents go, well, we did it that way and you turned out fine. They take it as an insult that you're doing that. So I supported her, and so did other students, in claiming who she was and who she was intended to be. And that support was so important to her. Then I saw her step the next year into real leadership and being head of that student committee. And I took a bunch of Smithies up to a retreat house north of Amherst, Massachusetts. And we had a powerful weekend. And I had two friends so close to me who I had known for a very long time. And I asked them, because they were both guitarists and singers, if they would come on this retreat and provide music for the students, for us, so that we could celebrate liturgies, the Eucharist, with a song. And they drove all the way up. They're good, dear friends of mine. Now, they came and they spent a day with us doing music. And this made a great impression on Carrie. First of all, the loyalty of friends touched her. But as we all piled in the car, I had a bunch of Smithies in the car. We were driving back to Northampton. Carrie said, someday I want to be a priest and have cool lesbian friends. Which I took as a great compliment, and I said, if you're not just kidding around, we should talk about that. And we did. And again, this enormous growth. How does a person become who they were intended to be? Well, I'll stop the story there for now. And I'll ask you, who were the people in your life that helped you become who you were intended to be? How are you not yet the person that you are intended to be? What kind of pressures have come down on you for claiming who you are? How did it go against the grain in some cases? How is it still going against the grain in some cases? This is the gospel story today. How does Jesus become who he's intended to be? We need to let go of ridiculous ideas that I've had people say to me for a long time. Well, he knew everything. He was God. What a boring life that would have been. He goes to bed at night going, yeah, tomorrow I heal a leper, I confront the Pharisees, I win. And that's ridiculous. As a babe in the manger, you think he was fully capable of speaking Swahili and knew that in galaxy M15 a star just supernovaed? That's crazy. Luke specifically says, and the child grew in wisdom and in age, and in favor with God and people. Jesus wasn't born God. We say Jesus carries the fullness of divinity, but we also insist that Jesus was human, fully human. And he had to learn, and he grew. And this is his first encounter, which will go on all through his life, of finding out who he's intended to be, and people don't like it. His parents, Luke says, don't understand. They didn't understand what he said to them. They didn't understand what he said. You ran away. This translation is weak. It says, your father and I were full of anxiety. The better translation is, we were terrified. We were terrified. That sensation of, this happens in department stores, right? Voice comes on the loudspeaker. Parents of Wendy, please come up. We have your child at the front desk. Now, the first thing the parents do is they kneel down and they cry and they hug the child. And then they say, and don't you ever do that again. First comes the joy and the happiness, the relief. Yeah. He's for the first time taking resistance to who he will be. And there will be many times. He's trying to be who he is fully intended to be, and his apostles don't like it. And Peter, James, and John don't like it. And the Pharisees don't like it. And his own religious authorities don't like it. And the people don't like it. It's tough to be yourself sometimes. Adult children grow up in a family, and as young adults, they take on a different political opinion. Thanksgivings are tense from now on. Discussion at the table might get heated. You got to watch out. How have you handled resistance? How have you done that? How have you handled resistance to becoming who you are and who you are intended to be? What strengths do you draw on? How did you become the best person that you are? When I was first ordained, I thought I had to preach like my mentors. I thought I had to be the best Fred Craddock that I could be. And then the discovery is, my job is to be the best Doug Ryniewicz that I can be. Your job is to become the best individual that you are. Does being a member of a faith community, has that helped you? And have you ever taken resistance because you go to church, to a faith community? Sometimes you receive support. Sometimes people aren't particularly happy. Jesus of Nazareth experiences all these things. He is for us because in this human journey, he is like us. And as he discovers who we are, we discover who we are. Martin Luther says that when we gather and receive Christ in the bread and in the wine, we recognize for an instant the deepest self that we are, the Christ that we are to each other. Things to reflect on. Again, the word is a little weak. It says Mary kind of thought about these things. Ponder is a good word for what Mary does. And we're told this at least twice, that Mary ponders. Have you figured this out? I figured this out one day. We live our lives forwards, but we understand them backwards. We look back and we go, that's what that was all about. That's what was going on. That's what helped me get through that. Ponder like Mary. Good example for us. She pondered these things. Well, this is a good season for pondering because it's a natural Christmas season of remembrance. We remember a lot. But it's also said that the windshield is a lot bigger than the rearview mirror. And there's a reason for that. To focus on what is God alive and with us, Emmanuel, doing in your life now? Which way are you headed? And how do you need to come more fully into who you are? Well, Carrie announced that after she finished Smith, I was asked to give the prayer at the graduation that year. And I had a good time, but the president of Smith College probably didn't like it because she was giving me dirty looks that the prayer was going on too long. And so Carrie came up to me and said, I am starting seminary. I'm starting Virginia Theological Seminary. I said, it's wonderful. Now, after graduation ceremony, I went back to my office, and Carrie's parents were there. And I was so happy to meet them. And they flew a long way to come to graduation. They were not happy to meet me. I got all kinds of hairy eyeballs, ugly, unhappy face. See, they wanted their daughter to go to an elite college. She was very bright. Become a doctor. Become a lawyer. Become something that's going to be really... And they were not happy. They said to me, we had other hopes for Carrie. But you were a big influence on her, and now she's decided to become a priest. And the subtone was, thanks a lot for nothing. And they were very cold, almost rude. And so they left my office. I sat down in my chair and I said out loud, God, why do I get a job that's so much fun? And then I went to have lunch.